Call 6 Investigates has uncovered problems with a system meant to protect your child at school. A new law says school districts must report when they use seclusion or restraint on a student who is out of control. However, Call 6 Investigates Kara Kinney uncovered some districts misreporting that information.
School districts receive these letters telling them they have to report when a child is put in a manual hold called a restraint or when they're put in seclusion, which means a staffer puts the child in a room and keeps them from leaving. Child advocates say the information is critical to keeping children safe, but we found serious flaws in the system.
This is kind of like Josh's life. But
Nicole Hicks points to the picture when it happened to her son at the age of 9.
Josh endured restraints. He came home with bruises on his wrist and part of his arms.
Josh has autism and a mood disorder. Nicole says the school didn't send home so much as a note about the restraint.
I had a 9-year-old who started going back to the bathroom in his pants.
Nicole was instrumental in passing a new law that requires school districts to report every time a staffer secludes or restrains a child. It's supposed to be used as a last resort to keep the child safe from hurting themselves or others.
We have to look at when we're doing it, how we're doing it, and making sure that we're doing it correctly.
Call 6 Investigates obtained seclusion and restraint numbers from the 2015-2016 school year. School districts reported nearly 6,000 restraints and more than 6,000 seclusion incidents. But when we checked with districts reporting some of the highest numbers, like Lafayette and Richmond, they told us they misreported. And when we looked closer, more than half of school districts reported zeros across the board, not a single seclusion or restraint. We showed our findings to Indiana Disabilities Rights' Melissa Keys.
Had you seen these numbers until we showed them to you?
No.
It's all over the place.
Exactly.
The problem, according to Keys, is there's no teeth in the law, no punishment for school districts who misreport.
It's great in theory that we have this, but in practice it's just falling short.
Pike Township has the highest number of reported seclusions with 603. Megan Ehlers oversees special education and says they take the definition of seclusion literally when a student's way out is restricted.
This follows the federal guidelines.
They call their seclusion rooms calming rooms. It's like an empty closet, 5 feet wide, 7 feet long. Ehlers explains a child typically spends only about 5 minutes inside.
We don't ever want this to be a scary situation.
Teachers have to hold the door to keep the child in. They cannot lock it and walk away.
By not having anything in there and by having the walls having a little bit of give and stuff, the child can continue to be physically aggressive and will do little to no harm to themselves or to others.
After we started asking questions about this statewide data, the Commission on Seclusion and Restraint met for the first time in more than a year.
I think every school has at least one seclusion during the school year.
The group is now investigating whether schools reported accurately. Nicole is a member of that commission. She points out some special needs children are nonverbal and cameras are not required, so the information is one of the few ways to tell what's happening. Her son is now 19 years old and is still struggling with fear and anxiety. Nicole believes Josh being restrained had a long-lasting effect.
I do believe it played an impact on who we became.
The commission is sending out letters to districts reminding them of their obligation. They're also looking to tweak the definitions of seclusion and restraint because there's a lot of room for interpretation. Kara Kinney, RTV6.
So what can you do as a parent? Ask your district if they have seclusion rooms. Ask to see their policy on seclusion and restraint. By law, every district now has to have one. The law also says schools have to tell parents when they use seclusion or restraint on your child. You can also look up your school's incidents on this story on the RTV6 app.